Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Chapter 1. A Secret Cave. Long ago, in Persia, there lived two brothers. Qasim was the rich merchant, but Alibaba was only a poor woodcutter. While Qasim ran a large store in town, Alibaba spent his time collecting firewood. He would gather twigs and branches to sell at the market. It's a hard life. One day, Alibaba spotted a band of horsemen galloping into the wood. They had daggers and looked dangerous. Quickly, he hid in a tree. The men started at a cliff near Alibaba's tree. "Open, sesame!" cried their leader, and a hole appeared in the rock. Silently, they went in. "That's amazing!" thought Alibaba. He wanted to explore, but he was scared of them. After a long wait, he saw the rock open again. He counted the men as they hurried out. There were 40 of them. "Shut, sesame!" said their leader. The rock closed and the men rode away. "Follow me, man!" Alibaba slid down from his tree. He tried the magic words. "Open, sesame!" Instantly, the rock opened. Alibaba crept inside and gasped. The cave was crammed with treasure. "Those men must be thieves," he thought. "They won't miss a few coins." And he filled 4 bags with gold. He turned to go, but the rock had closed behind him. "Help! Open, sesame!" he cried. The rock slid open and he darted out. "Shut, sesame!" he added, before racing home. Alibaba's wife was stunned to see his bags full of gold instead of wood. "I must be dreaming," she sighed. Then Alibaba told her the whole story. "We should hide the gold," she said. "But first, let's find out how rich we are." She ran to Qasim's house and asked to borrow his wife's scales. Qasim's wife wondered why. Secretly, she smeared some wax on the scales before handing them over. "Thank you." When the scales came back, Qasim's wife found a gold coin stuck to the wax. She showed it to Qasim. "Your brother isn't a poor man after all," she cried. He wastes his gold. The next day, Kasim took the coin to Alibaba. "Tell me where this came from," he ordered. Alibaba couldn't lie to his brother. So he told him about the cave. Chapter 2. The Thief's Return. "Gold, huh?" thought Kasim. He hired 10 donkeys and took them to the place Alibaba had described. "Open, sesame!" he cried. The rock opened and Kasim stepped into the cave. He was dazzled by all the treasures. "I want everything!" He stuffed his bags full, then turned to leave. But he'd forgotten the magic word. "Open, strawberry!" he cried. Nothing happened. Kasim was trapped. Worse still, he could hear voices outside. He wanted to hide, but he was frozen with fear. Suddenly, the rock opened. "Get him, man!" shouted the leader of the thieves. "He knows our secret. Chop him up and leave his body to scare other people away." That night, Kasim didn't come home for supper. His wife was worried. She went to Alibaba's house in tears. "I think Kasim's in trouble," she wailed. "Please find him." "I hope he hasn't gone to the cave." Morning came, and there was still no sign of Kasim. Alibaba went to look in the cave. "Open, sesame!" he called. The rock slid back to reveal a horrible sight. Kasim's body lay in 4 pieces. Alibaba quickly put them in a bag and hurried home. "I can't bury my brother in pieces," he thought. He went to ask Kasim's loyal servant, Morgiana, for help. "I know just the man for the job." Morgiana went straight to the Mustafa, the tailor. "I need you to sew up something in secret," she said. "I will pay you well, but you must let me blindfold you." Mustafa agreed. He needed the money. Morgiana led him to Alibaba's house and made him sew up Kasim's body. Soon, Alibaba was able to bury his brother in 1 piece. He pretended that Kasim had died of an illness. "Would you like to work for me now?" "Yes, please." Chapter 3. X marks the spot. Meanwhile, the thieves had more stolen goods to hide. Gamo, the body's gone!" cried a thief to their leader. "Someone else must know about our cave," Gamo replied. "We must kill him too." "Let me go to the town and track down our enemy," suggested one of the thieves. "Okay, but be careful." The thief was in town before sunrise. Only Mustafa, the tailor, was already at work. "How can you sew in the dark?" asked the thief. "It's easy," replied the tailor. "The other day I even sewed up a body while blindfolded." "A body!" said the thief. "I will give you a gold coin if you show me where you did that." But Mustafa couldn't remember the way. So the thief put a blindfold on him. "Now, can you find the house?" he asked. "I think it is this door. I will mark it with chalk." An hour later, Morgiana arrived at Alibaba's house from the market. "What's this cross for?" she wondered. "I think something fishy is going on." She drew crosses on the doors of 9 other houses, so Alibaba's didn't stand out. Back at the cave, the thief was telling his friends about Mustafa and the house. "I can show you where our enemy lives," he asked. He took Gamo to Alibaba's street, only to find 10 doors marked instead of 1. It's one of these." "You fool!" Gamo returned to the cave, very annoyed. "Right," he said. "I will give a sack of jewels to the man who can find our enemy." "I will do it!" And so a different thief set off to ask for Mustafa's help. "Do I have to do this again?" "I will give you 2 gold coins." When they reached the door, the thief had an idea. "I'll mark it in red chalk," he thought. After he'd left, Morgiana noticed the new cross. She quickly drew 9 more, in red this time. The second thief led Gamo to Alibaba's street. There were so many crosses. He didn't know where to start. "Must I do everything myself?" cried Gamo. Chapter 4. The Oil Seller. Before long, Gamo had hatched a plan. First, he ordered his men to buy 38 big oil jars and 19 donkeys. He filled the jar with oil and left the rest empty. "I want 37 of you to hide in the jars," he told his men. "You 2 fools better find another bosses." Then he disguised himself as an oil seller and led the donkeys into town. Each donkey carried 2 jars. Gamo went to see Mustafa. "Showed me where you sew up that body," he said, giving Mustafa 3 gold coins. "Here we are." "Thanks. You can go now." At Alibaba's store, Gamo knocked loudly. "Can I help?" said Alibaba. "I hope so," replied Gamo. "I am an honest oil seller with nowhere to stay." "Well, come in and make yourself at home," said Alibaba. "You can leave your donkeys in the yard." While Gamo unloaded his jars, he spoke to the thieves. "Keep hidden until I throw a pebble from my window," he whispered. "Then you know it's time to attack." Morgiana was preparing supper for Alibaba and his guest when her lamp ran out of oil. "I'm sure the oil seller won't mind if I take some of his," she thought. She reached the first jars, and she was shocked to hear a voice. "Is it time, Gamo?" it asked. Thinking quickly, she replied in a deep voice, "No, not yet." Then she went from jar to jar, listening for voices. "Is it time?" "No, not yet." Only 1 jar contained oil. Men were hiding in others. Morgiana guessed Alibaba was in big trouble. She took the oil to the kitchen, heated it in a huge pot, then carried it out to the yard. Carefully, she tipped sizzling oil into all 37 jars. One by one, the thieves spluttered and died. That night, Gamo looked out of his window. "All clear," he thought, and threw a pebble at one of the jars. 20 pebbles later, there was still no sign of his men. "They must be asleep," he thought, and crept outside to wake them. To his horror, he found all his men dead. He panicked and fled. In the morning, Morgiana showed Alibaba the dead man and told him about the oil seller's escape. "They are the thieves I saw at the cave," he cried. "We'd better bury them here." Chapter 5. Revenge. By now, Gamo was very angry. He thought of nothing but killing Alibaba. While he was plotting, he decided to sell some of the treasure. He dressed up as a businessman and set up a marking stall. By chance, Alibaba's nephew ran a store nearby. "Hello, my name's Kamo." "Nice to meet you, Sir Kamo." The 2 men got along well. I've made a new friend, the nephew told Alibaba. A week later, Alibaba's wife held a dinner party for their nephew and his friend. Camel found himself face to face with his enemy. All went well until Alibaba offered him salt. Have some salt. No. Anything but that. In Persia, it was very unlucky to harm someone if you'd eaten their salt. Morgiana heard their guest refuse the salt. Strange, she thought, and studied him more closely. It is the man who pretended to be an oil seller, she gasped. I must protect Alibaba. Quickly, she changed into dancing clothes. With a tambourine in her hand and a dagger at her side, she swayed and twirled in front of the party. She's wonderful. Her dance was greeted with claps and cheers. Again! Bravo! Then Morgiana went from one person to the next, holding out her tambourine for money. Alibaba gave her a coin, and so did his nephew. Camel fumbled for his purse. This is my chance, thought Morgiana. As Camel looked down, she took her dagger and stabbed him. The others jumped up. What have you done? Cried Alibaba. I've saved your life, Morgiana replied. He's dead. I am confused. Look carefully at your guest, she went on. He's really the fake oil seller. He is also the leader of the thieves, cried Alibaba. He must have been after me ever since I found his cave. Quickly, they buried Camel's body with the other thieves. Morgiana, how can I ever repay you? Alibaba asked. Maybe she could marry me, suggested his nephew. I'd love to. Great idea, said Alibaba. We'll have the wedding of the year. And there's a cave full of treasures to pay for it.